Hello, everyone. Welcome to 10-Minute Elections. Today is Monday, March 1st, 2021. As I know, it has been a while since I made my last video, but I just want to talk about kind of the stimulus package, right, where it's at, its passing, what's in it, what might be in it when it passes, that kind of stuff. Seeing as it just passed the House by 219 to 212 vote. That's the first thing on the agenda. So, in terms of the House vote, a lot of freshman Republicans were originally wondering whether or not they should support the bill because the bill is quite popular with the general public. Roughly 70% of the general public supports it, and that includes obviously a sizable chunk of Republican leaning voters, considering that it's 70%. However, Republican leadership in the House, right, Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise, aggressively whipped this vote. And they had actually a little bit of a taller order than McConnell and Toon in the Senate because a lot of Senate Republicans just oppose stuff like this on principle, which is, balanced budgets, deficit spending, that kind of stuff, although one kind of calls that into question after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which was a massive contributor to the national debt. But the House Republican leadership did have to whip the vote. However, a lot of those, especially those freshman representatives, on both sides of the aisle, generally defer to their party's leadership, and their party's leadership makes sure of that. So it was a mostly party line vote. 219 voting in favor. That includes all Democrats but two, and 212 against. That includes every Republican plus two Democrats, and those were Kurt Schrader of Oregon, who is generally a fiscal conservative, so I'm not too surprised that he voted against it. Kurt Schrader actually voted against the $2,000 stimulus check amendment in, I think, December. And then Jared Golden of Maine's 2nd Congressional District, who will be quite vulnerable in 2022. That he could have gone either way. I wasn't really sure which way he would go, but he did end up voting no. So that bill now gets sent to the Senate. However, it will not be the same. You see, even though the House has supposedly passed Biden's package, we're actually not that much closer. Well, I take that back. Look, so the House passed the package, but it has some elements in it that will have to be removed in the Senate, like a $15 minimum wage, which the Senate parliamentarian ruled was not eligible to be passed under budget reconciliation, which is the process in which this stimulus package is going to be passed, right? So that will have to be removed. There will probably be a host of other amendments. So the Senate will pass, presumably, it might not pass, but it probably will pass, an amended version of the House bill, right? With stuff stricken like a $15 minimum wage and maybe some other stuff. Maybe they cut down the cost of the bill just a little bit. So then that amended bill, once it gets the 51 votes, one of which is Kamala Harris, so really once it gets those 50 votes, that bill will go back to the House, and the House will have to vote on it again. They will very likely pass it by the same margin, or very, very nearly the same margin that they did, and then it will go to President Biden to sign. So, here is a Senate map with the ayes and the noes, and as you can see, there are 8 toss-ups, and I just want to go over essentially the bill's prospects in the Senate. What's going to happen, what's going to have to happen in the Senate, and who is going to decide its fate. So, the 8 toss-ups are, and these aren't necessarily toss-ups, these are just people that, when I say toss-up, I mean we aren't fully sure how they will vote. Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, Mark Kelly of Arizona, Mitt Romney of Utah, Jon Tester of Montana, Josh Hawley of Missouri, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, and Susan Collins of Maine. So that's 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. However, I will note that the Republicans are much more likely to vote against it than the Democrats for it. In fact, Mitt Romney is a pretty reliable fiscal conservative. I put him in the toss-up group because he did go with that those 10 Republicans to pitch their $600 billion stimulus package. But since that's clearly not going to be agreed upon, not going to get voted on and whatnot, and it's really, the 1.9 trillion isn't going to be stale that too much, I think we can say Mitt Romney is a pretty safe no. Lisa Murkowski as well, and Susan Collins is probably their most likely hope besides Josh Hawley, but I'm going to make Susan Collins a likely no vote. Now, why did I put Josh Hawley here? We know Josh Hawley is, famously or infamously very kind of neoconservative, and so why would I say that he might vote for this bill? Because Josh Hawley has actually said that he supports a $15 minimum wage for big businesses. He supports $2,000 stimulus checks. Josh Hawley actually supports a lot of economically more progressive ideas, and that really makes him an outlier in his caucus in that kind of way. He's kind of one of their most conservative members, and yet in some ways one of their most economically liberal at the same time. So I don't think Josh Hawley will end up voting for this bill because, seeing as he voted against the 1.9 trillion, and generally he is going to vote with his party on stuff like this, he's going to try and shape the legislation. But I can't see Josh Hawley voting with Democrats against all other Republicans to pass this 51-49. I would be shocked. So even though Josh Hawley is generally more favorable to these kind of bigger spending, kind of economically populist ideas, a lot like Donald Trump, I don't think he ends up voting for this bill. I'm going to put him as a likely no vote. So that leaves us with 46 ayes, 50 noes, and 4 Democrats. So now let's go over the Democrats. Mark Kelly of Arizona is the most likely to vote for this bill. He has not voiced serious concerns. He has not voiced serious concerns with this bill. I put him there because he is certainly one of the most centrist members of his caucus, and he has not indicated that, yeah, I'll just vote for yes, whatever. The 46 other yeses are like, yeah, they're gonna vote yes, whatever the bill is. They'll vote for it. But Mark Kelly, it's gonna need to be a good bill, but I do think, and all indicators point to that it does have his support. Kyrsten Sinema is going to be the more troublesome one. However, here's the thing. Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, right? Jon Tester of Montana, and Joe Manchin of West Virginia are 3 senators that have voiced opposition to the $15 minimum wage in the stimulus package. So if the parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough had ruled that the $15 minimum wage could stay, this was going to be a problem. Why, you might ask? Can't we just remove the $15 minimum wage? Can't they just, forget that just out of political reasons? Well, no, because numerous members of the House Progressive Caucus, which has 94 of the Democratic Caucus's 224 members, by the way, it's really growing. Some of them have said that they will not vote for a bill that does not have a $15 minimum wage. And Kyrsten Sinema, Jon Tester, and Joe Manchin presumably won't vote for a bill with a $15 minimum wage. So that means if you keep the $15 minimum wage in, you've only got 47 Senate votes. If you take out the $15 minimum wage, right, Nancy Pelosi was only able to lose 4 votes on this bill. They were 4 votes away from not being able to pass the House. 4 yeses switching over to noes. So AOC votes no. Ilhan Omar votes no. Rashida Tlaib votes no. Let's say Jamal Bowman votes no. Ayanna Pressley. That's more than 4. The bill is sunk if you don't include a $15 minimum wage in the House. Now, these are generally young members, so they are going to defer to leadership. That's what I said earlier. However, AOC and that kind of her squad has shown time and time again that it is less willing to defer to leadership than a lot of other freshmen. It's really a new kind of caucus, a new way of thinking in the Democratic Party, and so they're have been pretty aggressive about pushing their ideas, whether or not really leadership likes it. Anyway, since the $15 minimum wage is out, the bill's prospects actually look better. Democrats, frankly, I think should have been hoping that McDonough ruled against the minimum wage. I know they were really pulling for her to rule in favor of it. They should have been hoping for her to rule against it, because if she rules for the minimum wage, this bill would have been much, much more difficult to pass. So, Kyrsten Sinema, now that the minimum wage is out, I'm going to say she's a likely yes vote. Jon Tester, now that the minimum wage is out, likely yes vote. Again, maybe some spending needs to be cut from the bill, but they should vote yes. And then Joe Manchin, he's going to be the toughest one. He has voiced some concern with the bill's price tag, and he has voiced firm opposition to a $15 minimum wage. He has also decried the partisan process. However, he did vote for the budget resolution, which set up the process of budget reconciliation. And for that one, I'm going to say he is a lean yes vote, which would mean presumably with Josh Hawley, Susan Collins, Joe Manchin, Jon Tester, and Kyrsten Sinema being the only not surefire votes at this point, and Josh Hawley is very, very close to surefire now, then that's 50 ayes, 50 noes. Kamala Harris votes for it, goes back to the House, passes probably by a margin of 219 to 211. Maybe they lose a couple progressive votes, but that's still, let's say they lose two, then that's 217 to 230. Is it? Hold on. 219 to, I'm sorry, it's 217 to 214. The bill passes the House and it goes to President Biden to sign. So the bill's prospects look pretty good at this point, and I don't think we will see Democratic defections because unemployment benefits expire mid-March. I think a lot of those progressive members like AOC are going to eventually accept that, yep, this is what we're going to get. Right, we're not going to amend it and send it back to the Senate. No, this is what we got to vote on, and it should pass 219 to 212, or even 220 to 211, with the $15 minimum wage not being a part of it. Maybe Jared Golden comes back around. So, what exactly is in this bill? Last part of the video, and I just want to talk about where the 1.9 trillion bucks is actually going. All right. So individuals are getting a little over 600 billion. That's 30% of the bill, right? 300 billion in cash payments, 260 billion extra unemployment, and 43 billion to student loans. Large corporations, 500 billion, 425 of which is going directly to subsidize those corporations, right? The other tens of billions are scattered out between wages and benefits. Contractors, airlines are getting about 20. I think the airline industry is getting about $60 billion, and 26 of that is going straight to airlines. And then 17 billion is required for national security. Small businesses, 377 billion bucks. That's 19% of the bill. 350 of which, the vast majority, is going to new loans. The other 17 and 10 are going to relief for existing loans and grants, respectively. State and local governments, that's 17%. $340 billion. 274 of that is going to COVID-19 response. The other tens of billions are scattered between, for example, there's a component for higher education, K-12 schools, family programs, block grants, and other state and local necessities. All right. And then public services, 180 billion. That's only 9% of the bill, which is a little surprising. 100 billion is going to hospitals, 20 billion to veteran healthcare, 16 billion to stockpiled equipment, and the other stuff is scattered between, food banks is getting a little bit, public services, community health centers, CDC response, drug access, child nutrition, all sorts of stuff. So the noteworthy parts of this bill, individual payments and whatnot, right? Student loans, extra unemployment, all that stuff. It's only 30% of the bill. Public services is only 9% of the bill. So, right, what's actually going to affect most directly the everyday American citizen? That's less than 40% of this bill. The majority of this bill is going to businesses, both the large and small, and state and local governments. So, why is this important? Why is it important to give money to these things? Well, in terms of basic macroeconomics, right? Businesses create jobs. And the reason the unemployment rate is so high is because businesses have not been able to hire people, or businesses have had to lay people off. So the idea in subsidizing these large corporations is that subsidizing them so they have the bandwidth to hire more workers. Not necessarily at higher wages, potentially at higher wages, we'll have to see. But the bottom line is the country needs to be going back to work, which it has been. And the subsidies and bailouts, not necessarily bailouts, but subsidies, are to help those corporations have the leg room to hire more workers, or at least stop laying off existing workers, right? So 39% of the bill is going to public services and individuals, and then the other 61 is going to businesses and state and local governments, right, for vaccine rollout, for infrastructural type of stuff. Not infrastructure as in bridges and roads, but infrastructure as in COVID-19 response infrastructure, right? Okay, so that's all I've got for y'all today. I know it was a bit of a long one. I say that pretty much every time I stop. But we discussed, right, what's going on with the COVID-19 relief bill, its passage in the House, and its amended prospects. what amendments we might see, its prospects in the Senate, what might need to happen for it to pass there, the Senate parliamentarians' ruling, and what's actually in the bill. Thank y'all so much for watching. We are getting closer to 50 subscribers, so if you enjoyed the video, if you're still here, props to you, brownie points to you. You could cash those in somehow by subscribing and liking. Please and thank you, and I will see y'all next time. Until then, stay safe and peace out.